Salutations, tubers. Welcome to part 2 of this, my conversion of a Lionel James. It's taken me a bit longer than I might have liked, but I've finally gotten it, let's call it 98.5% complete. My goal in this conversion, much like my previous conversion of a Thomas, was to take a basic O-gauge toy train locomotive and make it a little bit more prototypical looking to resemble its prototype. In this case would be a Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, I believe, class 28060, modified into a 260. And if you don't mind, I'll give you a little brief tour of what I've done to her. First thing we've done, or I've done, is remove the face and replace it with a 3D printed smoke box. If you go into Shapeways, look up the Lionel Percy smoke box. It tends to fit most of the models, so if you're interested in doing something like that, something like this yourself, I would recommend you get one of those to start. And we've added on little wooden number plates, shed plate, and lamp irons. I've yet to make some lamps, but that'll be the next project coming down the pipe. As with my previous engine, the number I've selected for this engine is the next in line, where the L&Y class locomotives ended, with 52619 under British Railways, so I simply made this one number 52620, excuse me. And as for the shed plate, I've chosen, I don't know if you're going to be able to read it, but it says 68C, that's Stranraer. No particular reason for picking that other than I tend to operate out of Stranraer when I play Train Simulator. So it's a neat little seaside town up in the north of Scotland. I don't know if any real Class 28s were based out of there, but for this particular engine I figured why the heck not. Going back, we've got the nameplate. Had a bit of a palaver picking a name for this particular engine. Originally I was going to call it Thunderchild or Shamrock, but limited size of the nameplate coupled with I tend to paint names a little bit big, had to find something to fit, so in the end I decided to call it Letty. You know, Letty, that sort of thing, since this engine is purportedly coming out of Scotland. And for the livery I chose a late BR dark green livery. Again, I'm not entirely sure it's going to be prototypical to this particular engine, but I like this particular scheme, and I decided instead of doing all the trim up in brass like I did for the Thomas conversion, I decided to do up in nickel just as a change. And we've got our Westinghouse pump, because all my engines that I've brought over from the UK have to be fitted with Westinghouse in addition to their vacuum to operate all the air brake stock I have. Then we've got our power designation of 3F and our number, and then we've got a yellow stripe. Now, as far as my research I've been able to do on this is that it was a prohibition of running certain locomotives on the electrified portions of the West Coast Main Line. I think it was, can't remember where exactly that started, but I'm sure somebody will be able to point it out. But anyway, again, not particularly prototypical for this particular engine, but I thought it looked neat just to make it look a little different. So that's what I've done. Also touched up our whistle with a little bit of paint, because on the base model it's just bare plastic, so I wanted to make it stand out. Next, we've done up our tender into my Mule Valley Railways scheme. I was debating putting British Railways on here, but I thought since this engine has been, you know, immigrated across the pond, I figured I'd put my MVR logo on it just like I did with the other one. And as with my other conversion, I've put my aquarium gravel coal simulant to go on top of the base coal load, make things look a little bit more realistic. And if we'll separate the carriages for a second, we've got our back lamp iron and our back shed plate. It's not, in the future I might add a few more details, like maybe a back head and a few other things, but for right now this is pretty well how it's going to look for the foreseeable future, and I like how it turned out. Only other real modification I've had to do to this was I've had to add some weight these little weights to the bottom, and I've got some more in the cab, totaling about 2 ounces, because as built, this engine is so light, it had plenty of oomph. It just, the wheels would sit there and spin, and it wouldn't be able to pull anything. Kind of defeats the point of having the locomotive. So put on my old thinking cap and threw some weights in there to have a little bit more adhesion pushing down on the drive wheels. That seems to have cured it. And not much more I can say other than I like how it turned out. Runs good, looks good. So without further ado, I'll get the power on and I'll show you Letty running around the layout. Un momento, por favor. Takes me a second to figure out this. There it goes. Okie doke. Right away, God. Overhang. Oh, figures works fine when cameras are rolling, but as soon as it goes on, problems start. There we go. There you have it, folks. Till next time.